last year 11-2, returning 9-7. They must really like this guy. I heard he's a really likable guy. I mean, I could tell you all the ins and outs to Indiana, but at the end of the day, only thing that I can really think about is Curt Cignetti's surprise element is kind of gone. I think he kind of beat some of those games. Some of those games were really close. He had a really good group of guys that played together really well last year for a first year. We've seen this before. We've seen it at Notre Dame, as a matter of fact, with Charlie Weiss, when a guy takes over, do something really well the first year. Um, it spells nothing but regression to me the next year. No way he gets back to 11-2, let alone the playoffs. Some of those close games, he's just not going to have that continuity of the same group that fought well. And I watched a lot of those games. I mean, it was some heroics and everything involved with some of the things they did over there at Indiana. It was one of those things where the kids just click, like a TCU and, we seen the UCF back in the day. We seen all those teams where just played really well together. Yeah, some of the X's and O's lined up, but at the same time, Cignetti, and he did a great job last year. But I'm not too hot about Mendoza at quarterback. Of course, some of the defense, some of the offense is just a part of the scheme and what Cignetti do. And like I said, going into his second year in that conference, they're gonna have a little tape and they're gonna be able to check him out and try to cover some of those bases. Now, if he evolves and switches things around and keeps thinking and going, that's one thing. But if he's just trying to install his system and keep it that way, then yeah, maybe he takes a step back this year. But yeah, surprise element gone in Indiana. Too many close games last year. I definitely see a regression in Indiana this year. Let's start with my man Wine this time. I'm gonna give my man Moose a break. Wine, take this one first for Moose.
Yeah, Indiana, they lose their quarterback coaching. My guy Tino Sinceri to UCLA is going to be the play caller there, but they do return their offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach, and Mike Shanahan. Curt Cignetti is always going to have a thing to say in that offense, though. I like the key additions. They grabbed Fernando Mendoza from Cal. When this guy hit the portal, I really wanted UCLA to get this guy. I just think he's a gamer out there. Big statured guy too, good frame over there, and he could run with it. Just seems like a gamer. They grabbed a defensive edge rusher, senior from Kent State, Stephon Daly, who did really well in that conference. This is going to be a step up in conference, but we've already seen that Curt Cignetti can make that adjustment with some of these players that he's brought in from that outside Power 4 conference. They grabbed 4 offensive linemen that played big-time football and a lot of snaps in Power 5 conferences. They've got a 3-headed monster over there at running back here. The key returners is Elijah Sarah, who caught nearly, I think it was almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in 2024. Came over from James Madison with Curt Cignetti. I think this team takes a step back despite their easy schedule. This team gets lucked out again by their scheduling. I mean, especially if you look at their non-conference games, this team it's going to be really interesting to see in that game. Can you bring that schedule up one more time, boss?
Oh, that's on the slide. It's
coming
good. Back around.
Well, just act like you did it on purpose. Just act like you did it on purpose.
Okay. All right. Give me a moment. I almost got it.
No, I like that they grabbed Fernando Mendoza. I mean, we've seen what they've been able to do with quarterbacks over there. I like Curtis Rourke. I mean, this guy ended up getting drafted in the 7th round. This guy wasn't an NFL prospect and going into the 2024 season. No one knew who this guy was, but he goes out there and that offense was absolutely rolling. There it is right there. I think they have losses to Iowa. I think they have losses at Penn State. I have them around 9 wins, I would say. So this is an over. I'd have to actually dive a little bit deeper into my notes. It sucks that I can't pull up this depth chart right now. I don't know why. I think it's because we're live talking about college football, which is absolutely wild if they can't actually give me the depth charts. But with that being said here, I think this Indiana team can only take a step backwards. It's kind of hard to replicate what they did in 2024 coming into the Big Ten. I do think that they have probably a better quarterback than Fernando Mendoza, but I do think that losing Tino Sinceri might be a little bit of an issue for their quarterbacks because he's kind of been their quarterback whisperer over these last couple of years. Really spent a lot of time with these quarterbacks. It's going to be interesting to see what Indiana does this year. There's no way they win the amount of games they won last year. I'd say they have them around 8 or 9 wins. Still a good team in this conference, obviously, because I have them at 6 in my power ranking. So I am pretty high on this Indiana team. But look at that non-schedule: Indiana State, Kennesaw State, Old Dominion. That's a joke, guys. Like, come on. Like, I mean, their road schedule not even good, but not even challenging. But I still think they could win 8 or 9 games. I'm not going to take anything on the team total here, just because I have question marks about this. It's still a fairly new offense, so it's going to be interesting to see here. But I do like Indiana this year still. I just think they take a step backwards because, I mean, going 11-2 is the best season Indiana is probably ever going to have. But with that being said, Curt Cignetti is doing something with the culture over there as well. Bringing in his guys, and they're starting a new culture over there in Indiana. So that being said, that's it for me. Take it away here, Moose, my guy. And shout out to Dutch Boy Fresh in the building, my guy right there. Shout out to you. Good to see you, my guy.
Yeah, Dutch Boy throwing in them smoke penises. So, thank you very much for the smoke dicks. I do. Are you seeing? Come on, look at that. It is clearly in the shade. It's clear in the shade. I'm not sure what you got down there, but that looks a lot like mine. So a little bit whiter. But the thing that I want to point out here is they do bring back Bob Bostad, who is their offensive line coach, and that's a big return. I mean, of all the guys that they lost in their coaching staff, that is a major return. And he does have a pretty decent O-line. They do lose their starting center and their right tackle from last year. They did bring in a couple of centers and right tackles. They added the Pat Coogan, who's a Notre Dame transfer, and they also added Khalil Benson, who's a Colorado transfer. He did play in Indiana in 2023, so he kind of returns. The offense, I think, is going to be pretty potent. It's not going to be as good. Obviously, when you lose Sinceri, who's a great offensive mind, that's going to be a little bit of a step back in the wrong direction. But Shanahan was there, and they were using a co-offensive coordinator model. And it was Sinceri had the passing game, and Shanahan had the ground game. And now Shanahan kind of takes over full time. They did lose quite a bit of yards, but I do like Mendoza coming in there as a passing quarterback. I did not like Rourke. Everybody kept on hyping up Rourke, and I just saw a guy that was a great fit in the system. And I think Mendoza is a potentially better fit in the system. They also brought in Grant Wilson, who's an Old Dominion transfer, who could be a competent backup. And you remember last year they had a pretty decent starter and backup, and their backup is also left to go try a starting opportunity somewhere else. Ellison and Lawton were the main running backs, and they're not going to be there. So it's going to be a little bit of depth. I'm sorry. It's going to be Roman Hemby more than likely kind of taking over the reins. And he's a Maryland transfer who played decently, but it was a Maryland offense that always tried to pass the ball. So what's it going to look like when he actually gets a pretty decent load? The receiver is, decent. They bring a bunch of quality receiver transfers in, but they do lose the top receivers from last year. They were both gone. And the big thing that I do kind of want to point out here is that it's on the defensive side of the ball that we are going to see the biggest regression. In my opinion, we're going to see the biggest regression. Most of the secondary is gone. I mean, you have 2 starters that do return, but I mean, a lot of the depth is gone. They do add D'Angelo Pons, who used to be D'Angelo Pons returns, who was a Sun Belt All-Conference. They do bring in Luis Moore, who's an Ole Miss transfer. Rylan Gandy is a Pitt transfer that they brought in, and Moore hasn't played since 2023. And Gandy was very inconsistent at Pitt. He played well at home, but he didn't play well on the road. There is a lot of questions about the Indiana defense. I don't have as many questions about the offense, but 41 points is not happening this year. I'll put a good amount of money that they are not going to average 40 plus points this year, but I see them around 30, 38, somewhere in there. And that's kind of where their projections are, is around 35 points a game, 38 points a game. And that's going to be a solid offense, but it's the defense. And we don't know that. I still think they're solid. The last point I want to make here is we had the same expectations when Cignetti was at James Madison, and they came back for a second year after just busting open the doors their first transition year. And everybody's like, okay, we know Cignetti now. We know what he's about. He's not going to be nearly as successful. And he was just as successful. He's a fantastic coach, and I do have faith that they're going to be really good, but I do not think they're going to be in the playoffs this year.
I can feel that, man. I'm going to keep it moving. I would say more, but we'll be here all day. But let's keep it going to USC.